Welcome into NFL Daily. I am Tom Downey. Today's way too early 2023 NFL mock draft is presented by Manscaped. You can get 20% off and free shipping on all their top-of-the-line men's grooming products at manscaped.com/chat. It is a way too early 2023 NFL mock draft. Here are some rules. Let's have fun. Don't take things too seriously. It's a way too early version. There's lots of things that are going to end up being wrong. That's how this thing works because there's an entire year of football still left to be played. Pretty much all these guys have a lot of growing to do. We're making some guesses as to who will show some of the best growth. And the order is based on the Vegas odds, so do not blame me if I have your team drafting early. With that in mind, Houston, number 1 overall. I'll have them taking Will Anderson, and we'll get to the quarterbacks, I promise you guys. But had Will Anderson been draft eligible in this year's class, I think he would have been pretty damn close to the unanimous consensus, obvious number 1 overall pick. He was awesome last year for Alabama. I think he is your non-QB favorite to be the first pick in the 2023 NFL draft. But unlike last year, the early indications are that the quarterback class is going to be pretty good. So who will be the number 1 overall pick in 2023? Could easily give the Texans a QB. I went edge because I wanted to make sure it was clear that I love Will Anderson pretty heavily. Make your predictions. Who will be the number 1 overall pick in next year's NFL draft? Of all the Georgia players, Jalen Carter might be the best one from this past year on the field. Every time you're watching a Georgia guy, it's like, who's this kid making plays? It was consistently Jalen Carter. I'm not out on Zach Wilson yet, so imagine a front of Quinnen Williams and Jalen Carter for the Jets. That's one hell of an interior pass rushing duo. Here's our first QB off the board, C.J. Stroud, in part just to troll my boss James over Bryce Young. We'll get to him in a second. Stroud's touch, the ball placement is impressive. I don't think he has a Josh Allen arm. That's okay. Nobody does. He and Bryce Young are going to be just a constant back and forth all year long. Who's going to be the Heisman? Who's going to be the number 1 overall pick? Who's going to be the top QB drafted? Blah, blah, blah. Stroud does benefit from an elite group around him, including Jaxon, Smith-Njigba, who, I mean, we watched the bowl game, right? Dude could not be stopped. He is the next in a very long line of great Ohio State receivers. Let's get Trevor Lawrence a legit number 1 option. Carolina at number 5, if they're drafting top 5, means Matt Rule got fired, and the new regime will want a new QB, Bryce Young. He does not have the same size as C.J. Stroud, but his anticipation throws and really the arm, even when he's off platform, are all very impressive. Both of these QBs, based on the limited watching I've been able to do, and just the live watching, of course, as well, would have been QB1 fairly easily in this year's class. But they will most likely come out next year. Of course, they were not draft eligible this year. Who will be QB1 in 2023? Type CS for CJ Stroud or BY for Bryce Young. This question will be our pinned comment on today's video, so if the ad break comes, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. In what appears early on to be shaping up to be a not great offensive line class, Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern is the first one on here. I think we're going to have the same Rashawn Slater. Is he a guard tackle conversations, but he played very well for Northwestern, and Atlanta could use some offensive line help. Time for the other QBs. I'll begin with Tyler Van Dyke, the quarterback from Miami, who in the live watching I was very impressed with as the season went on. There is still plenty of room to grow for Van Dyke. He takes a step forward projection. The hype right now has been around Will Levis, the Kentucky quarterback, former Penn State transfer, which I gotta be honest, I'm not as on board with the Levis hype train. I think there's 2 really great QBs this year. Everybody else has to show a lot, but we know how QBs tend to rise, and if Levis can show he's a better processor, better reader of the field, he's got the arm and the athletic ability to command a ton of interest. There will be at least 2 QBs in next year. I saw Todd McShay and ESPN and Mel Kiper talking over under 6.5. That's a little bit wild to me. I'll take the under on that side. We've got some other names coming up here. I'll go quick on them. How many QBs go in round 1 next year? Let me know in the comments right now. Last year's entering this time of the year, potential QB1 was Spencer Rattler. I'm not putting any more QBs in there. Rattler's got to earn it. Tanner McKee, Phil Jurkovich from Stanford, Boston College are some prototype quarterbacks with their size. Jaron Hall from BYU is pretty damn good. I like Devin Leary as a sleeper. Grayson McCall, the small school kid's got some talent, but there are some flaws. All these guys have flaws in their game, right? That's why you have an entire year to hope they get better. I've seen hype around Anthony Richardson. That I was told last year, Emory Jones, guaranteed first-round pick, and we know how that went, so I'm going to pump the brakes on the Florida kids there. Cameron Ward is the FCS to Washington State transfer. He'll put up big numbers. Jake Haener could have gone pro and might have been drafted out of Fresno, and Keaton Slovis I don't think he's that good, to be honest, and he may not have his number one receiver this upcoming year for Pitt. That's Jordan Addison, who's number 9 in my mock draft, going to the Chicago Bears, get Justin Fields, a number 1 guy. The issue is he is in the transfer portal and allegedly going to get the bag from USC, so we'll see what happens to Jordan Addison, but he was a baller for Pitt last year. Steelers get a cornerback here. Keely Ringo out of Georgia. Shocker. There's a lot of good Georgia and Alabama players in this year's draft, so stick around for that because we are far from done as it relates to those two teams. You guys can get the Ultra Premium Collection with our friends over at Manscaped for 20% off and free shipping when you use promo code CHAT, C-H-A-T, at manscaped.com/chat. It's never too early to go through our NFL mock drafts because mock draft season never ends, and it's never too late to make sure you're using the best men's grooming products. Get yourself fixed up nice and clean today, manscaped.com/chat. Number 11, Paris Johnson. Projection involved here. Make no mistake about it. Guard for Ohio State, I think, will project better at offensive tackle. Commanders might be looking to replace Charles Leno, so I like the idea of Johnson at number 11. Number 12, Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame. I think this kid is a stud. The last time the Vikings took a tight end out of Notre Dame worked out pretty well. The Notre Dame offense is at its best when it's just throw it to the tight end, and that has worked well. Tight ends don't go that often. He's not Kyle Pitts. I'm a huge fan, though, of Michael Mayer. Eli Ricks, the LSU to Bama transfer, who is also now in trouble with the law, but, it's football. Will probably be okay. A lot of talent from Ricks. He was a coveted transfer, I think, former 5-star recruit. Eagles need another corner opposite Darius Slay. Brian Bruzzi, the Clemson defensive lineman. This is a former number 1 overall recruit. There's a lot of talent for Bruzzi. He just hasn't been able to consistently show it. So this is a big projection pick here. It assumes that the innate talent finally shows out this year at Clemson. Notre Dame edge Isaiah Foskey, who had a really great year for the Fighting Irish. He could have turned pro last year, or I should say this past year. Had he done so, it probably would have been a top 64 pick, would be my guess, somewhere in that round 2 range at minimum, maybe even a little bit earlier. Another year of development could be great for his draft stock. If you want more NFL draft coverage, and if you enjoyed, and if you had liked our previous draft coverage from the 2022 NFL draft, thank you all so much. Make sure you guys are subscribed. We will do more draft coverage here at Chat Sports. Link is below, youtube.com/chatsportstv, wherever you're watching. If you're watching on YouTube, simply hit that big red button. A USC offense lineman. I know Dolphin fans like, I can't do another one after Austin Jackson. I like Andrew Voorhees more. He is a killer along the offensive line. Could play tackle guard for the Miami Dolphins. The other edge rusher or defensive lineman from Clemson, Miles Murphy, who put up some decent production. Again, a lot of these guys, you're banking on a big-time step forward. Sometimes they don't take a step forward, and they don't come close to sniffing round 1. Trying to find more offensive linemen here. I really am. How about Connor Galvin out of Baylor, who I thought did a pretty good job last year for the Bears. A bit of a sleeper, I think, overall right now. And the Cardinals have, 2 or 3 offensive linemen under contract next year, so yeah, it's a bit of a need. Keishawn Butte, one of the best names in this year's class out of LSU. Better production in 2020, had a little bit better quarterback play as well. He's very good once the ball is in his hands, and I think it's going to be Traylon Burks, and I'm not sure who else will actually be under contract next year for Tennessee. I like Antonio Johnson out of Texas A&M a lot. This is, again, mostly based on live watching, and sometimes like a player more when I study, sometimes less. Kind of a safety corner hybrid. I think he's one of the better defensive backs right now in college football. Now, who is your favorite prospect for the 2023 NFL Draft? Now, I know it's super early, so you can pick your favorite player and your favorite college team. That's fine with me, but I want to hear from you in the comment section right now. Number 21, Jermaine Burton, the Georgia to Bama transfer. This is the second of 3 transfer players Bama's got in this 2023 mock draft. He will have much better quarterback play, and it worked out really well for Jamison Williams as well. Javon Dexter, the defensive lineman out of Florida. Producer Jeff's a big fan of this one. And the next one coming up in a second, I get Javon Kinlaw vibes out of Dexter. Big length, big size, 3 technique in the NFL. Here's our first running back, Bijan Robinson, who I love as a football player. Texas's early round draft picks, bad streak snapped here. Robinson's awesome when the ball is in his hands. Very dynamic running back, 3-down player. I love the prospect. I don't like taking backs in round 1, but the Cowboys don't learn lessons. Pollard's a free agent. Ezekiel Elliott might be in his last year. So, yeah, they take a running back in the first round. Cowboy fans going to hate me, and I don't blame him for it. Noah Sewell, this is, by the way, Panay's brother. He is a linebacker at Oregon. He's been very productive in his young career so far. We'll see what the athletic testing looks like, but Sewell to the Chargers, hey, that's a needed linebacker for them. Jamar Gibbs, the Georgia Tech to Bama transfer. Why just recruit the best players, Bama, when you can also get the best players to transfer into your organization there? I think Gibbs is going to ball out this season for the Crimson. This is a lot of projection for me as a transfer. I think he is going to have a massive season on par with, maybe not quite to the same extent, since Bama will throw it too, with some of those other great recent first-round picks or early-round picks from Alabama. I have 2 running backs in round 1 of my mock draft. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? So will one get drafted in the first round next year? Make your predictions. Y for yes, N for no. All right, the Houston Texans here at number 25 overall. By the way, I did forget to mention, that's my bad. Pick 13 from Philadelphia was via the Saints. I forgot to mention that earlier. That's on me, folks. This one, the Texans' pick was from the Browns. Seattle's pick now is from the Denver Broncos. Cam Smith, the cornerback out of South Carolina. Really good year for the Gamecocks. They've had some recent success at that position. Smith might be the next one. All right, B.J. Ojulari, this pick, by the way, from the Niners, part of the Trey Lance trade. To the Dolphins, this is Azeez, the Giants edge rusher's brother. Ojulari could have a big-time step forward, does offer the juice that his brother offered as well. Could have been a first-round pick had it not been to some medical stuff. The Packers get bold on this one. Arik Gilbert, the receiver, tight end out of Georgia, began his career at LSU, was hyped, has had a tricky path to actually getting on the football field. Sounds like he's going to play receiver for Georgia this year. All upside pick. This could look really smart or really dumb. The Lions picked number 29. This one coming in via the Los Angeles Rams. Quentin Johnston, you might not know this kid out of TCU. Just watch some of his highlights. I think he's going to be a stud this season. The Chiefs, Jaquelin Roy, who was a bit of a part-time player from LSU on their defensive line rotation, but he flashed a lot this year in both the run game and the passing game, so I'm looking at the upside pick here, the growth on that one. Nolan Smith, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Georgia edge, who I think is next in line to have big-time production. He didn't have that many sacks. Again, they rotated players. He flashed enough to have me sneak him in the back end of my round 1 mock draft. And then Jalen Catalon, the safety out of Arkansas to the Buffalo Bills here. They got some free agents coming up at that position. Catalon needs to fine-tune his tackling, but there were people who thought he could go pro this year and be an early to mid second round pick. Now, I only got room for 32 players, and if I'm lucky, like half of them, maybe 20 of them, will end up being first round picks. So who did I leave out of my way too early 2023 NFL mock draft? Get in the comments and call me out for which prospects I left out. Here are some of them. Some other offensive linemen. Zion Nelson, the one that jumps out to me along the offensive line for Miami. Great athlete, needs a big-time step forward. Broderick Jones did not play that much for Georgia, but I was impressed in a limited role. Josh Downs, North Carolina receiver, actually was a good vertical threat. And I think Ronnie Bell is an underrated player at Michigan. Other defensive guys, Zach Harrison has flashed, has not been consistent yet for OSU. FAU, the nickname for the edge rusher out of Kansas State there, Felix, I like him. He was very productive in a under-the-radar role for Kansas State, so keep an eye on him as a sleeper this year. And yes, Army's Andre Carter is actually really good at football, so keep that in mind. Joey Porter, you go, wait, Joey Porter, Pennsylvania? Yeah, that is Joey Porter Jr. His dad is Joey Porter. This is the cornerback version. Brandon Joseph transferred to Notre Dame from Northwestern. Got to take a step forward, but, Kyle Hamilton was pretty damn good for that program. And Clark Phillips also, I think, an under-the-radar player for Utah. We will have more NFL draft coverage for you throughout leading up to the 2023 NFL draft. So if you haven't already, subscribe right now.